So Deb, the BLT. So the BLT, first of all, is my favorite sandwich of all time.
Favorite sandwich of
My
all
favorite
time.
sandwich of all time. It is.
That
Yeah.
is so interesting.
I know. I
I
know it doesn't rank as the most popular sandwich.
I think that's because people forget about it outside tomato season, or at
Mhm.
least they should forget about it outside tomato season.
Well, this
Inside
is an
tomato
interesting
season, when
debate.
you have your first one, you're like, I forgot that this is the perfect sandwich, which
Mhm.
was my experience making BLTs yesterday for the first time this season.
Oh, I made BLTs for the first time today, this morning. I made your grilled BLTs, and I assume you made my BLT recipe
I
yesterday.
did. I made yours based on your. I read every one of the 2,000, 5,000 words on your
My BLT
on the
manifesto.
perfect. I actually learned. I thought it was very. I have a lot of takeaways. I thought it was a very interesting piece. So this is on Serious Eats from a few years ago. It's a
Hmm.
big, your BLT manifesto,
Hmm.
and I feel like you have some very good points there. I actually agree with most of them, which is weird. Like, are we not going to have anything to discuss today?
I
Like,
think
what are
there's
we going
plenty
to
to
do if we can't
discuss. There's plenty
argue?
to discuss. So we did tend to agree on a lot of it. So I want to start with the question of what is a BLT to you? And I mean, so for me, a BLT is a tomato sandwich that's seasoned with bacon and mayo and like has a little bit of it's a tomato sandwich with condiments on it essentially. And so, the tomato for me is the star of the show. And so
Mhm.
you wait until tomato season is essentially BLT season for me. And an off-season BLT is just a completely different thing for me. And I know some people really love the bacon. It's like people want like a giant pile of bacon on the sandwich, and they're fine with sort of those winter. I think David Chang is one of those guys who said he wants a crunchy winter tomato on his BLT and just like a big pile of crispy bacon. But I don't know. How do you feel, Deb?
I had never thought of it before I read your piece about how it's a tomato sandwich seasoned with bacon. But I love that. I'm a big fan of tomatoes on sandwiches. I always need either a slice of tomato or something pickly and bright. Like, I need something. Otherwise, I find most sandwiches too dry and heavy and kind of like thick. So I've
Mm-hmm.
always so when I read that, it kind of something snapped into place for me, and I realized that I don't like it when BLTs are like you're biting through six slices of bacon. I like it when you're biting through
Mm.
a nice couple layers of well-seasoned tomato with the bacon as a crunchy, salty accent. So I maybe I was already doing it and I hadn't articulated it, but I agree with you on that because I feel like as long as the bacon is
Mm-hmm.
correctly cooked and nicely salty, I don't need a ton of it to make the sandwich work. Just a
Yeah,
few
you don't need a ton
slices.
of it. Although I would say that given dry, with sort of dry bacon, if you like having like a dozen slices of bacon on there, you can compensate for that with enough mayo or like with juicy enough tomatoes. Like I've had sort of like deli style BLTs where the bacon comes out of a microwave and the lettuce is like shredded iceberg, but the shredded
Hmm.
iceberg has like enough mayo in it that it becomes kind of like a mortar almost that holds the sandwich together, and gets it, and the bacon kind of gets pushed into it. And I think that can kind of work in its own special kind of way. But it's
I
very
think
different from like a homemade BLT with really good tomatoes.
it's really the tomato is really the star because to me a BLT without a good tomato is it's that's why I think of it as a summer season thing. And it's been, at least in my family, I didn't grow up eating BLTs at all. I don't know, we weren't kosher or anything
Hmm.
growing up, but like we were definitely not like bacon was not a regular part of our meal repertoire. But as an adult, I absolutely love them. They're so fun in tomato season, and I've always done it where I kind of make them assemble your own style, where I put out the tomatoes and the toasted bread and the
Mm-hmm.
lettuce and kind of let the kids and everybody make their own. It's also fun when we've had people over on the patio, so everyone can make their own sandwich. It's such an
Like a
easy
BLT
meal.
bar.
BLT bar,
Yeah, and
exactly.
but how do you make sure that people don't overdo it on the bacon then?
I mean, you're just going to have to glare at them and make them feel uncomfortable and unwelcome if they
You know,
do. I
it's
think you
funny.
just have to have an excess of bacon. I mean, basically, my daughter's just going to walk around with a fistful of bacon, and you're picturing a toddler, but she's 9 now. My husband too.
Yeah.